moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. Marvel's Spider-Man has arrived, and the hype train surrounding it can now shift into overdrive. 2 years removed from a dazzling showcase at E3, the gaming world has been waiting anxiously for Insomniac Games to deliver on a promise to transcend one of our favorite superheroes into the mainstream limelight. Now that I've cut through the red tape and gotten my virtual feet wet in the urban jungle that is New York City, I can safely say with confidence that Marvel's Spider-Man takes your $60 purchase and pays it forward with sheer greatness.
Now that you quit smoking, what do you tell people when you come up here?
Instead of retconning a famous comic book arc or retelling one of the 6 feature-length live-action movies under heightened pretenses, Marvel's Spider-Man treads its own path, showcasing a world filled with intrigue and morals swinging on a pendulum. Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for 8 years, suggesting a more stoic and more skilled superhero is on display here than the ones depicted in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon or the recent Homecoming movie. That experience is immediately put to the test with Kingpin in his crosshairs and an imminent threat our spandex-clad protagonist won't see coming. Without spoiling anything, you'll see a fair share of villains in your time playing Marvel Spider-Man, but they're all given a chance to shine, and instead of disrupting the flow of the story, they add to it and keep things going at a brisk pace. A laundry list of characters from Spider-Man comic book lore are remixed in interesting ways here, like Mary Jane Watson reporting for the Daily Bugle, Aunt May running a homeless shelter, and Norman Osborn campaigning for a mayoral re-election. They all play directly or somewhat indirectly into the chaos ensuing when Peter's swinging around saving lives, but what's particularly fascinating is how their personalities come to life over time. The game does right by the history of these characters by drowning you in boundless interactions that not only fill in the gaps, but provides room for both ample character development and juicy secrets as you play along. 2 perfect examples of this revolve around the dichotomy of the superhero's lifestyle. On numerous occasions, Peter's constantly racing back and forth to stop crimes and show up to Dr. Octavius' lab on time for his latest experiment, but the game slows down in these instances to give us a sort of surrogate father-son dynamic. Peter's love and appreciation for science bleeds into his mentor's unceasing ambition and merges to form a kinetic bond that feels wholesome. Then we have Peter's fragmented relationship with ex-girlfriend Mary Jane, whose prominent role in the game both aids and interferes with Spider-Man's crime-stopping antics. Just like how the Uncharted games nestled in composite dialogue between Nathan and Elena to give us a sense of where they stood, Spider-Man's excellent script is witty enough to convey the emotional baggage between Peter and MJ without needless exposition. I could talk for days about the toll this story takes on Peter's life, and that alone is a testament to the overall body of work in this beautifully layered out story. Whether it's the ensuing gang war following Fisk's collapse, Martin Lee's descent into Mr. Negative, or the many persons important to his life that are constantly blowing up his phone, Spider-Man and Peter Parker are duality personified, a seesaw of obligations with an ever-growing opportunity cost. Where Spider-Man's physical fortitude is tested against his greatest foes, his responsibilities as Peter Parker range from heartfelt exchanges to tearful tragedies. Along with the main story missions, you see both the struggle and the catharsis in the pursuit of balance everywhere else, in the various side missions that open up while you progress, the incessant phone calls that retain the story's pacing as you're swinging about, J. Jonah Jameson's podcast that aggressively demeans every action you take, and the NPCs you encounter at Feast, lives who were changed for the better because Spider-Man sacrificed valuable time to be Peter Parker instead. You'll be hard-pressed to find a more complete, a more reverent, and a more absorbing video game story this year, let alone in a Spider-Man game.
Mr. Jameson, I want to apologize. I used to think you were an alarmist, but look what's happened to the city. I'm afraid to walk the streets.
As well you should.
Marvel's Spider-Man is an open-world behemoth. You start off swinging around in a linear route to your first crime bust, but then shortly after, New York City turns into a lively, sprawling playground rich with over 40 hours worth of activities. Playing through the story unlocks various challenges, collectibles, and landmarks to snap pictures of, and it never seems like the game runs out of new things for you to do. Unscrambling Oscorp surveillance towers highlights landmarks and backpacks to seek out and find, and doing so provides tokens that are used to craft gadgets, upgrade other gadgets, purchase suits, and unlock suit mods. These tokens are dispersed into different brands, with which you can gather by completing other tasks like research stations created by Harry Osborn, hideouts ballooning with thugs, and random crimes spread throughout the entire city. Almost everything is gradually unlocked and peppered around each and every district. You'll even stake out in an attempt to find Black Cat's whereabouts, and doing so rewards you with a new suit and some added closure. Speaking of added closure, many of these activities come with a negligible endgame interaction that make them worth completing. Hunting down all of Howard's pigeons could become repetitive in nature, but then you learn more about him as a person and discover his motivations behind seeking your assistance, and next thing you know, it becomes a priority. Harry's research stations hint at a storyline much deeper than you think, and audio sound bites illustrate him as a careless advocate looking to improve the well-being of his city and get necessary funding from his own father's company. These activities are fun, loaded with variety, and offer some clever surprises that lead to different styles of play, bleeding into one another. In one instance, you'll be swinging through a smog of sulfur dioxide searching for exhaust samples, and in others, you'll be playing along with some attention-crazed social media junkie looking to become internet famous. Marvel's Spider-Man ensures that your breaks between the main action not only expand the universe Insomniac has created, but also illustrate how much fun a truly realized New York City can be when in the right hands. Again, however, they're important to your level of progression, and completionists will become addicted to how the game leads players on to more unlockables and secrets as the story continues to peel off. Earning more suits through level upgrades and farming different types of tokens becomes its own experience. You'll spend dozens of hours distracted by a map that continues to swell and congest with these optional objectives, and then jump for joy when doing them culminates in a dearth of new moves, gadget upgrades, and Spidey suits to mix and match with. It's without a doubt one of the deeper reward loops you'll find in an open world game this generation. City's problems don't stop with the hurdles of your daily grind. The story missions on tap feature an urgency and increasing level of danger consistent with the plot. Not a dull moment goes by as you continue to uncover new threats and neutralize old ones. Like the best action movies of this decade, grandiose set pieces are a formality without feeling like mere excuses to show off the game's graphical prowess. You are constantly in control of the action, progressing through hordes of enemies, trampling infrastructures, and spaced out quick-time events with excellent transitions that gracefully capture the action ahead of you. New gameplay elements are cleverly introduced in these story missions, while others continue to evolve with the action. As the stakes continue to mount against Peter, so does the level of possibilities in-game. Boss battles, despite occasionally cascading into formulaic dodge attack affairs, are generally outstanding, keeping you on your toes, requiring a fair amount of trial and error, and putting your reflexes to the ultimate test. There are a few that I will never ever forget, but you'll have to play the game yourself to see what I'm talking about. As advertised, Mary Jane is a playable character, and while her stealth-infused sequences represent the weaker half of the main missions, they're still a blast to play, demonstrating the redhead's cunning smarts while heightening it with some awesome surprises in later stages. Marvel's Spider-Man controls like a dream, and those nostalgic of the prior glories of Neversoft Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and others like Spider-Man Web of Shadows and Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions will find that Insomniac has molded the best of all of those games into one complete package. The web swinging is incredible. With enough skill and practice, zooming from one half of the city to another can take all of a few minutes, as the game offers a dizzying sense of speed and momentum that can make you cry tears of joy before daring you to master its nuances. Like the best Spider-Man games, traversal never gets old, and discovering what you can or can't do as you climb tall skyscrapers or sway around just a few feet above ground invites your imaginations to places unforeseen. The ability to nosedive, zipline, and bounce off of building edges and one-off walls culminates seamlessly into moments of perpetual bliss, gaming sessions where everything else comes to a screeching halt. just so you can bask in the orgasmic sensation of soaring hundreds of feet into the air, suspending gravity if only for a moment, before gathering enough inertia to crack the earth wide open before swooping right back into the clouds. I love that you can't die from freefall, especially since new moves allow you to take advantage of that and regain momentum. Insomniac crafted the web swinging in such a way that you never feel like you could hit the skids unless you outright want to, and little things like that invite you to keep going and fine-tune your precision. However, combat and stealth are the cornerstones of this experience, and they represent Marvel's Spider-Man at its absolute finest. Say what you will about the parallels to the Batman Arkham games, but this game learns from the best and improves on a tried and true formula. Bouncing between foes and following the Spidey sense for incoming gunfire is smooth and responsive, and landing enough blows to fill up your focus meter can instantly turn the tides when enemies have you backed into a corner. Your web shooters are great at stunning and slowing down foes, and Spidey's exhaustive list of other goodies rain on the parade in fun, quirky ways. If you're coming straight from the Arkham games, the heightened speed and fluidity of Spider-Man in comparison can be a little overwhelming at first, especially with such a healthy dose of moves and gadgets, but practice, experimentation, and a lot of improvisation can go a long way here. Skill trees allow you to build up your combo list, while a Ratchet and Clank style weapon wheel gives you the agency of going freeform against groups of thugs with myriad levels of efficiency and variety. Take to the air and Spider-Man turns into Devil May Cry with masks and superpowers. Few things in life are as exhilarating as launching stun foes up above you and continuing the fight with an assortment of swings, kicks, and mid-flight finishers. And since the game offers a wealth of upgrades and moves tailored to sweeping through enemies in different ways, you'll eventually find a relative ease in turning in a high combo counter with movie-like style. Like how the Arkham games literally emulated the feeling of beating the crap out of baddies with Batman, Marvel's Spider-Man can look and feel like a CGI movie come to life. And that feeling never tires, even after you've combated the hundreds of rampant crimes and completed the dozens of enemy bases and challenges. Ditto for the stealth segments, which fluently translate Spidey's gadgets and his traversal abilities. The game will sometimes have you leap tall bounds meters apart from each other to take down snipers and other armed assailants, and other times you'll need to create distractions to split enemies up so that you can clear a room and save hostages. Spider-Man is so quick and nimble that zipping from one place to another, knocking out unsuspecting foes while everyone else is ignorant to your presence becomes a thrilling endeavor. Thankfully, the game acknowledges this by adding challenge rooms for those who want to master the art of the silent assassin. If you like the Create a Spider mode in Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, then you're gonna love the suit system in Marvel's Spider-Man. Almost every suit you unlock comes with a unique suit power, but those suit powers aren't tied to that suit alone. You can attach any suit power you've earned to any of the suits you have, and a great deal of them alter the way you approach the gameplay. This adds an extra wrinkle to an already exhaustive list of gameplay mechanics, but once you get used to the mixing and matching, you'll find that it enhances the experience tenfold. These costumes also show up in cutscenes, which is really cool too. Enemies pack a serious punch in Marvel's Spider-Man, and the challenge in surviving certain rooms, surmounting certain bosses, and escaping certain scenarios continues to spike as you go along. Definitely play this game on spectacular difficulty if you want the most immersive experience, as swarms of enemies will pounce on you in unison, gunfire and rockets are fired with reckless abandon, and your margin for error, while fair enough, is pretty slim. With near-perfect controls, a deep combat and stealth system, and a sky-high skill ceiling, Marvel's Spider-Man offers a masterful technical experience where literally everything you do is fun, inventive, and stylish as all hell. And in their efforts to breathe life and diversity away from the main action, Insomniac has crafted an ideal open world that, despite some repetition, pulls you in and never lets you go. New York City can be a euphoric tourist attraction one day and a rain-soaked mess of street litter in another, and Marvel's Spider-Man offers gaming's most stunning, encompassing recreation of both aesthetics. An amazing lighting system exposes the seemingly limitless detail to both the exteriors and interiors of buildings, while street signs, trash bins, and trees look so authentic and lifelike that at the right angles, you could forget you're playing a video game. Landmarks, both historically accurate and comic book inspired, are everywhere you look, and each district is faithfully distinguished by subway systems, heights of skyscrapers, the eerily accurate alignment of specific blocks of road, and other sites like fire escapes, basketball parks, and seaports. Take a break from swinging around and you're likely to bump into various NPCs who'll give you high fives, stare you down in awe and amazement, and express excitement when you swoop down to say hello. Other NPCs can be found playing chess at feast, shooting hoops, or forming dance mobs. They're as much a part of the city as the geography itself. During the sun-drenched color orgy of the daytime, the brewing uneasiness of street-lit nights, and the harrowing orange gaze of sunset, New York looks absolutely magnificent. And you could get lost in its effervescent beauty, swinging around in it, or even jogging around for a close look at things. Spider-Man himself not only looks fantastic, but is animated gracefully. Every move he makes, every step he takes looks awe-inspiring, and watching him fight crime, crawl up and down walls, or urgently work his way through tight spaces is a showcase that alone is worth purchasing this game. Iconic villains are impressively recreated, and the moments in which you take them on are unforgettable. Visuals of city destruction and other forms of chaos both in-game and in cutscenes are drop-dead gorgeous, and if you happen to have the latest TV and audio setup, sit back, turn the volume up to 100, and enjoy the ride, cause it's gonna get crazy and it's gonna get loud. A pristine visual package is matched pound for pound by some stunning audio work. The slink of your web shooters on surfaces as you traverse around the city, the swoosh of wind that whispers by when you vault over city blocks in one bound, and the hard thump of fists making contact with the faces of thugs is all perfectly mixed. John Paisano's soundtrack mirrors the thumping orchestral theatrics of the MCU movies, and in quieter moments it peels back to help illustrate the more human side of the proceedings. It's with you everywhere you go, from the menu screens to the science experiments you conduct in Otto's lab, to something as simple as dive bombing down the Empire State Building. Voice-over work from the main cast is excellent. Yuri Lowenthal is perfect as Spider-Man, nailing every snarky one-liner and enhancing the plight of Peter Parker with gravitas. Laura Bailey kills it as MJ, Nancy Lenoy makes for a thoroughly enjoyable Aunt May, and the portrayal of various villains is handled remarkably well. Every now and again you may run into a one-off NPC offering below average voice work, but overall this cast transcends the experience and often finds the comedic timing and the emotional weight necessary for each scene to soar.
I've got a few minutes before work. I'm gonna look around, see if there's anything else I can do to help you out.
Oh, you don't have to.
I know. I want to.
Marvel's Spider-Man is the Uncharted of superhero video games. It takes blatant inspirations from prior games, but refines them, molding them together in ways you never thought possible to create a unique cinematic experience you'll never want to give up playing. Too many times I had moments where I felt that I was part of something greater than the sum of its parts, and when I thought I had witnessed the very best the game had to offer, it blew me away all over again. As a standard action-adventure title, as vibrant, lived-in, open-world escapism, and even as a comic book-inspired tour through familiar characters and tropes, Marvel's Spider-Man is a true console seller, a majestic touch of grace with uncapped detail and wonder that everyone deserves to play. Marvel's Spider-Man is the best superhero game you'll experience for years to come. Throw on your Spidey mask, strap on your web shooters, and go save New York City.
You are crazy.